Hey, take a look at what you're wearing right now. A shirt? A jacket? Have you ever stopped to think about the story it could tell? Because believe it or not, every single piece of clothing has one, but it's written in a kind of secret language, the language of design, production, and trade. And today, we're going to learn how to translate it.
I mean, really think about it for a second. What would they say? Would they talk about the designer's very first sketch? Or the factory where they were put together? What about the long journey they took across the ocean just to get to you? It's a pretty cool thought, right? And it's actually closer to reality than you might think.
See, in a way, they do talk. They speak this secret language of the industry, and over the next few minutes, we're going to decode it together. By the end of this, you'll be speaking the language of your own closet.
Okay, so our story always starts in the same place. Not with fabric, not with a sewing machine, but with an idea. This is the blueprint stage, where that creative spark gets turned into a technical plan.
It all begins with something called the basic block. Now, this isn't a design, it's a foundation. Imagine a perfect, skin-tight map of the human body, with absolutely no extra room for style or anything. This pure technical shape is the fundamental starting point for, well, everything, from a loose t-shirt to a tailored suit. It all starts here.
So, from that basic block, designers create the individual patterns. Each pattern is a template for just one piece of the garment. You know, a sleeve, a collar, a front panel. Think of them like the puzzle pieces that will eventually come together to become that blazer or that shirt. But, a pattern isn't just a pattern. First, you have what's called a working pattern. This is for making the very first sample. It has a little extra room built in, what they call allowance, for making tweaks and for the seams. And only after that sample is absolutely perfect does it become the production pattern, the final, flawless blueprint for making thousands of them.
And on these patterns, there are two little markings that can literally make or break the entire piece of clothing. We just mentioned allowance, that's the breathing room. The other is the grain line. It's just a simple arrow, but it tells the cutter exactly how to line up the pattern on the fabric's weave. I'm not kidding. If they get this one little arrow wrong, the finished garment will twist and hang all weird. It's that critical.
All right, so the blueprint is perfected. Now we move from the design studio out onto the factory floor. This is where all those flat pieces of fabric start their big transformation into something you can actually wear.
So, you've got a massive roll of fabric and all these different pattern pieces. How do you cut them out without wasting a ton of material? You use a marker. It's this giant sheet of paper where all the pattern pieces are laid out like a huge game of Tetris, just to make sure not a single inch of fabric goes to waste. Now the real assembly line kicks in. The cut pieces are joined together, and that line where they meet is called a seam. Each seam is built one stitch at a time, and the level of detail is just incredible. Even the thread itself is specified. Its thickness is called out by a ticket number. It just goes to show you, in manufacturing, nothing is left to chance.
Okay, here is a detail you have seen 1,000 times, but I bet you've never really noticed. Ever wonder why the corners of your jean pockets or your belt loops don't rip, no matter how much you pull on them? That right there is the bar tack. It's a tiny little patch of super dense stitches, and its only job is to handle all that daily stress and keep your clothes from falling apart.
So the basic shape is there, but it's not a finished product yet. Not even close. Now we get to the finishing touches. All those details that add function, structure, and that real high-quality feel.
This is where a garment really gets its personality. You've got the stuff you can see, like accessories, buttons, zippers, you name it, and decorative applique. But then you have the hidden heroes. A layer of interlining is what gives a collar its sharp, stiff shape. And the lining is what makes the inside feel smooth against your skin. It's that combination of the seen and the unseen that really makes a quality piece.
And here's another little piece of sewing magic for you, the blind stitch. It's this really clever technique where the thread is visible on the inside, but you can barely see it at all from the outside. It's the secret behind those perfectly clean, seamless-looking hems you see on nice dress pants and blazers.
But hey, before you go and make thousands of these things, you have to be absolutely sure it's going to fit an actual person. That's where the dummy comes in. It's a life-size model of a human body, and it's used for one last, super important check of the fit and how the fabric drapes before anyone dares to hit the big red button on mass production.
And that brings us to the final gatekeeper of quality, AQL, which stands for Acceptable Quality Level. Now, this isn't about checking every single item. It's a system. They pull a random sample from a huge batch and check for defects. AQL sets the maximum number of minor flaws that are allowed in that sample. If the sample fails, the entire shipment gets rejected. It's a really powerful way to ensure quality at a massive scale.
So our blazer is cut, sewn, and it's passed the quality check. It's ready to go. But how does it get from a factory halfway around the world to a store near you? This is where we get into the really complex, fascinating business of global fashion trade.
A really common business model you'll hear about is CMT. It stands for cut, make, and trim. Basically, a big brand sends its design and its chosen fabric to a factory. The factory's only job is to do those three things: cut the fabric, make the garment, and trim it with all the accessories.
But think about it. How does a factory in one country trust that a brand on the other side of the planet is actually going to pay them? Well, that's where the LC, or letter of credit, comes in. It's a guarantee from the buyer's bank to the seller's bank. It's a promise. Once the goods are on the ship, the money will be there. It's the financial handshake that makes global trade possible.
Okay, and when you look at an invoice for all this stuff, you're going to see these acronyms. FOB, that's just the price of the goods. CNF adds the cost of transportation, or freight. And CIF includes the whole shebang: cost, insurance, and freight. It's just a simple code to know who's paying for what.
With literally millions of garments crossing borders every single day, how do countries even begin to keep track of it all? They use a category system. Every single type of garment, a t-shirt, a blazer, socks, you name it, is assigned a specific number for import and export tracking. And the scale of this system is just wild. Think about every type of clothing you can possibly imagine. They all have to be sorted and tracked. In total, there are 115 distinct garment categories traded on the world market. That's a massive standardized library for everything we wear.
So why do those categories matter so much? Because they are directly tied to quotas. A quota is basically a limit. An importing country says, okay, we'll only accept this many items from category 637 from this country this year. It's a powerful way to control the flow of trade.
So there you have it. From the basic block in a designer's studio all the way to a shipping quota at a national border, you now know the secret language of your clothes. So the next time you put something on, take a closer look. What can you read in its seams, in its lining, in its very existence? Because now you speak the language. What story is your wardrobe telling you?